we are talking about onboarding and offboarding today, two very important, critical items when it comes to employees. And I want to help you to avoid missing some really crucial steps when it comes to successfully onboarding and offboarding a team member. So I'm going to be sharing with you some best practices, really, some strategies, but also in a really amazing tool that's going to help streamline this process for you. So if you stay on here, you are going to get access to our onboarding and our offboarding checklist specifically for your aesthetic business. So this is going to help you to not have to recreate the wheel every time you have a new team member or every time that you need. Well, let's see here. We got it. Let's mute. If you could mute yourself. Awesome. Thank you. Every time you have a new team member come on or leave, you don't want to have to stop everything, right? And remember, did I do this? Did I do that? So, because what can happen, right, if you're not prepared, is that things can slip through the cracks, and then you're not setting the company or the new employee up for success. And you want that person to not only just join your team, but to stick with you long term. So let's first break down really what I call the 5 C's, the 5 C's when it comes to onboarding and offboarding employees. And you got to keep these things in mind, because when you don't, that is when a hornet's nest really can spring up and cause a lot of havoc. So the very first thing, right, very first C is compliance. Compliance. You absolutely want to dot your I's and cross your T's. And it's not that difficult to stay compliant if you are strategic, and organized. So our checklist today is going to help you stay compliant. The next thing is that you have really clear clarification for the new team member, right? And then also for your existing team members as well. You want to be really clear with what things look like. You want to make sure that this is going to be a positive impact on your culture, right? That third C. The fourth thing is connection. You want to make sure that that new team member is going to feel, really a quick and immediate connection with the company and the other team members. And you want to set that new team member up for success so that your team feels that immediate connection with them as well. Because everyone remembers what it's like to be the new kid on the block, right? So you want to help forge those immediate connections with team members. And then the next thing that is really, really important is checking back. In fact, I'll pat myself on the back today that I scheduled calls with 2 team members that I don't really work directly with on a day-to-day basis. But they had been with us for a little while. And so I wanted to make sure that things were going good and they were feeling welcome and just check in with them, right? I also was checking in with them to continue those conversation about, what their future looks like and what career advancement can look like, right? So that checking in piece is really important component to that onboarding element. So quick recap of the 5 C's when it comes to onboarding. It's compliance, clarification, culture, connection, and then checking back. Really, really important. Okay, now the exciting part that I want to really pull up the checklist and talk about what once you comment in the comment box, if you comment, if you're watching the replay or if you're here live, we're going to automatically give you that link. Team, go ahead and put that link in the chat box right now if you're on Zoom. And if you're watching on organic social media on one of the channels, comment checklist, and we will be sure that we get you both our onboarding and offboarding checklist. And really what this entails is going to be all the new paper, the new employee hiring paperwork and file, creating that, right? You're also going to be what devices and logins does this new employee need access to, that checklist, right? How to prepare for their very first day, what that agenda looks like, what space needs to be ready, what that welcome kit looks like, how to announce to the team and to that new employee, right? How to assign, when and where to assign them with a peer mentor. What orientation looks like, right? And all those there's 6 elements to what orientation looks like. We have that all outlined for you. What their very first day looks like. And then the important piece in onboarding as well is that you have that feedback loop in place so that you can really make sure and feel confident that full integration into the team has taken place. Full integration into the workflow, into really how they are working and collaborating in their individual role and then collectively as a team. And so we're happy to share with you, if you in the comment box, comment checklist, and we'll send you that onboarding checklist that's really going to help you set the company and that new employee member up for success. Now, I want to be very clear that this onboarding checklist really gets them to their very first day. Their very first day. And this is great, and this is going to set you up for success. However, after that very first day is really when the work begins. And you really then should have a 90-day onboarding plan in place for that employee. I was talking to a client today, and she calls it her name is Megan. She calls it Megan Academy. So for the first 90 days with her team members, they go through Megan Academy. So, maybe it's your Med Spa Academy or just onboarding or something fun, but she's really spent a lot of time and effort into that for what that first 90 days looks like for her team members. And I can't tell you how important that is for their long-term success, right? And so if this is something that you're interested in getting help with, please reach out to us because I can tell you that it's not just about stopping it's not success just once you get them on that very first day. And oftentimes we see people stopping once they get them to that very first day and like, oh, I did it. We got that team member, right? And really, it's like the work really just begins on day one because you need to indoctrinate them into your culture and your team and your patient experience to ultimately get the results that you are looking for and to build the team member and team that you are after. So that first 90 days is so important. And so if you don't have that mapped out, I'm talking like the day, the week, the month, the 90 days, right? What that training looks like, what success looks like, what resources are going to be included in there, who is going to be matched up with as a peer, as a direct supervisor, right? All the things that is going to make a new team member feel really welcomed, really supportive, and really cared about, that they are not only there to help them do their role and responsibility, but care about their long-term success personally and professionally, right? And so there are many components to what that first 90 days looks like. And so if that's something that's missing in your practice, make sure that you reach out to us because we would really like to help you with really creating an onboarding system that's not only going to help you bring on new team members, but more importantly, retain them, right? Because the cost that it is to your business, the time loss opportunity, in addition to, just the waste of money of bringing on a new team member that doesn't reach their fullest potential is just huge. It's such a distraction. And so you really want to nail not just what I would call this checklist that I'm sharing with you really is like the company onboarding checklist for onboarding. And what I want you to really nail is the first 90 days of a new team member. So if that's something that you don't have established yet, make sure that you reach out to us. All right, let's transition over to the offboarding checklist because it's not as simple as just having a conversation with someone and letting them go. That is difficult to do, I understand. However, there is still work to be done because we're talking about, legal compliance. We're talking about making sure that you transfer that employee's knowledge into something that is necessary or documented, so the necessary team members are informed to be able to pick up the slack, right, until you're able to fill that position again or delegate it to another person. You got to recover all the assets, if it's phones or computers or whatever it may be, right? You got to collect all of those things, keys. And it's really important that you do a proper exit interview and collect the appropriate paperwork when an employee is leaving. So we are happy to have outlined exactly what that looks like when it comes to an offboarding checklist at the end of the day. And this isn't something to be taken lightly because even a quote unquote bad employee or one that didn't fit, there is something to be learned from every single team member that touches your organization, right? Even if you feel like they were 99% the problem, there's always 1% that you should and could, as a leader, reflect on. Okay, what could I have done better to set that person up for success? Or what could I have done better as a leader to fix this sooner than later? What could I have done as a leader or a business to have not gotten us in this situation in the first place, that I could have got that hire right? And I know as a business owner myself, am a leader of a team, that I haven't got every hire right. And that I really want to sit back and reflect on our processes, our systems, our leadership, our culture, and try to always continue to get better and to fine tune. And that's really the name of the game, guys. It's that it's never going to be perfect, right? It's always going to be a little bit messy, especially if you are on a fast track of growth, right? There's some messiness that happens. But what you can hold yourself to a higher standard of, that I'm going to be committed to always improving, to always sitting back and having some self-reflection with myself, with my team, with my processes, to commit to always looking to get better and fine tune things, right? And so we are happy to share with you both our offboarding and our onboarding checklist. It's going to help you with, again, compliance, communicating things to your team, what paperwork you need to be doing, keeping, how to communicate these things to your team, and make sure that you check all those boxes. And it's really going to help at the end of the day for you as a leader to be able to delegate some of these things that absolutely need to get done in your business, but that you might not necessarily have the time or the desire to do. But the reality is they need to get done in your business. So if you're just joining in now, make sure that you comment checklist, and we will be sure to send you access and the link to be able to get both our onboarding and offboarding checklist. It's free, instant access. Hey, Allie. Hey, Gwen. Hey, Kimmy. Hey, Luna Face. Thanks for joining me here live. So right now I'm going to go ahead. Hey, Jackie. Hey, Heather. Thanks for joining us here live. I'm going to open up the floor for any questions. Otherwise, I'll stay on here with the team that's on Zoom with me. But I think we have a question that's coming in here real quick. But again, really important is obviously compliance, right? But communication is a really big thing. And I find that sometimes when I don't do a good job as a leader to when I bring someone on and I don't communicate it in advance with my team that is so close, right? Our team is so tight knit and close that when a new person comes on, they want to like be in the know. They want to be involved in it, right? And so if I don't do a good job of communicating that, it's not setting the new person or my team up for success. Additionally, offboarding as well. Offboarding, if you offboard a team member, it's very scary for everyone, and it's scary for the existing team members as well. And how you communicate to that team, to your team that it's staying, that it's existing, is really important, right? Because you want to reassure them in their place and role within the team. But at the same time, you want to communicate why, without disclosing confidential information about the former employee, that you did it for the best interest of the company, right? And that's a really good thing to do because it sets the tone. Not only are you doing justice to the business by not allowing, you're cutting out distractions and noise, but those stories are going to perpetuate for months, if not years to come. And what you allow as the standard and that's accepted in your business. All right, so we got a few questions coming in here. When to fire a provider that is a cancer, but not a high performer? Great question. Okay, so my philosophy on this is you have to first reflect on yourself as a leader in a business. Have I been really clear on what my mission, vision, and core values are? And do I reward and or put on or punish or put on a performance plan if those core values are not being met? Okay, and a lot of times we've skipped that part of really having core values that we are training and teaching and reinforcing on a regular basis. And so when you first do that and you come around and it's like you're not a good team member, or you show up late regularly, right? But or you're just kind of a bitch to work with. And then but it's like you're a high performer, right? So you have to decide what you're willing to put up with and what you believe is in the best interest of the whole team. Because I will tell you, and I know this absolutely to be true, is that everyone is replaceable, including yourself, right? And really that's the name of the game to get a scalable business, is to have such a strong business system, team, and culture that anyone is replaceable, including yourself. And that is such a good place to be in and such a good position to be in. But if you haven't spent the time to really develop your core values and make that a part of your daily huddles and how you reward people, then people are just going to go on their own track and they're going to do what they want to do. And they're going to be like, I make you money. Like, don't talk to me about anything else, right? So I think there's a difference between a team member being a cancer to your culture and disrupting the whole team, because that's going to impact bottom line as a company. But I think it's different than, like, let's just say one of your core values, is something that has to do, with like being cheery or a cheerleader or something like that, right? And maybe you have a team member that's not like doing anything wrong, but she's just not much of an extrovert, right? She doesn't really want to get in there and do the team thing, right? To me, that's very different than being a cancer to the company. So at the end of the day, I would get really clear on what your core values are and what your non-negotiables are, and then decide, is this someone that is just, doing their thing in their own lane, that's a supporter, not a driver in the business, and that's acceptable, right? Or is this really a cancer to my team? If it's a cancer to your team, it doesn't matter how much revenue they generate, then I wouldn't keep them. During the hiring process, what do you recommend for the interviewing process? Oh, great question. Okay, so I like to do 3 rounds of interviews. So you want to make sure that they're going to be a culture fit, right? You want to make sure that operationally that they are going to fit, meaning they can meet the role and responsibility. And you want to make sure that it's going to be a financial fit as well, right? Because there are a lot of elements for you to consider when hiring a new team member and where their experience level is. I always say that you can teach someone how to inject and fire a laser and answer a phone and run a report, but you can't teach soft skill sets or core values at the end of the day. They are going to be either on board and a believer and they're going to drink the Kool-Aid, or they're not. And so that has to be a part of your hiring process. Because I know I was having a conversation with a client the other day that does $5 million a year in revenue. And they had an injector that was generating like $1.5 million a year in revenue. And she was just holding them hostage, making these demands and just making it miserable to go to work every single day. And this went on for over a year. And finally, they were just like, you know what? Life is too short. We will figure it out. I don't know who we are going to get to replace this person, but no longer is this going to be acceptable at our business any longer. So they let that person go even before they had hired another person. And they quickly got focused on, you know, what their core values are and what they were really looking for as a team member, because they felt really confident in their culture and their onboarding and their training process, that they could bring up an injector, even if they weren't as experienced or had as big as following. And I can't tell you how much happier this team and company is. And they are not quite, but they are almost back in just literally a few months to replacing that provider's revenue that was supposed to be irreplaceable, right? And they're so happy they did it. And they're like, before the end of the year, I know that not only are we going to be replacing her revenue, but it's going to be even higher as well. Okay, another question. Oh, one last thing on the interview process. I love a shadow day too. Like before you offer someone a position, have them come in and shadow to make sure that they're going to be a good fit. Because I think that it's pretty reasonable to say like that you can put on a good face for, you know, a half hour or an hour, or maybe even a lunch, you know, whether it's over the phone or at a lunch. But for you to spend like a half day or even a full day with someone, you really get to know them better and how they work and their personality. So I love doing a shadow day too before offering someone a position. Okay, next question. How to offboard an employee who is stealing time, and how to deduct stolen time from vacation in last paycheck. Okay, so this might be out of my scope legally that you want to. I would just advise checking potentially with an attorney on this one. But I would say that if you can prove it, right, then to me that could potentially make sense. But you would want to, in your exit interview, have that clearly documented and have them sign the paperwork at the end of the day. Because what you don't want is you like have a conversation, right? And then you go and you deduct it from their paycheck. And then all of a sudden, you know, a month or 3 months later, you have a lawsuit on your hands. So that's really, you know, that's why you want to check that offboarding checklist that we're going to be sharing with you to make sure that you are in compliance and that you have the proper documentation and having them sign off on things and conducting the exit interview and, you know, removing their credentials from all things. But if you can prove it, then I would say, yes, you would be able to do that. But if you can't actually prove it, I don't think it's worth it at the end of the day. Because an important thing of offboarding employee, regardless if you ever intend to potentially hire them back one day, like let's just say maybe someone's moving or they're going out on their own, or you know, they're having a baby and they don't want to, they can't work anymore. If at all possible, you want to leave the feeling with that employee that they are alumni that would be welcome back, either as a patient and or an employee. Even if you have no intention of, you know, offering them a position in the future, if you are to leave that feeling with someone, they're so much less likely to just go around town trashing you, right? So if you're really like, you know, thank you so much for your work while you're here. We're disappointed that you're having to leave, or we're disappointed it didn't work out. But I am going to, you know, think of your time here in high regard. and we're so grateful to have met you, and we wish you the best of luck. And can I be a reference? If we can be a reference for you or helping you land in your next position, then we would be happy to do that. So we want to make sure that you, if at all possible, right? Sometimes it's just ugly. It is what it is. But even then, you can still be kind, right? You don't need to trash and destroy a person, even though sometimes they're so shitty, like, and you're so over them, like you just want to rip them into shreds. The reality is there's probably something going on, right? That is making them behave or not do what they are supposed to do. And so keep that in mind. Humans are humans, right? So let's have some grace. Let's treat people with kindness. And then let's great, let them go on their way, and then we'll get back to business. But at all possible, try to be kind to these people, because that is going to help them to not just like trash you around town and make up lies, probably, right? And you don't want to see that, or certainly be trolls online. That is a distraction and super annoying when disgruntled employees blow you up online. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me live. Remember, check out our onboarding and offboarding checklist. If you're watching us on social media or the replay, comment checklist, and we'll be sure to get that to you. And if you loved this training, make sure that you share it with your team or another med spa that could benefit. And you can catch the replay on our YouTube channel. And to get access to more free trainings that will grow your business, visit our link tree on my social bio. And join us live, guys, every single Wednesday, same time, same place, 2:30 Central Time. Find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn.